GORY lower clockwise from top left. Oh. J. Simpson, Richard Hickock and Perry Smith, Tonya Harding, Jeffrey Dahmer, David Koresh, Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur, Charles Manson, Andrew Cunanan, Mary Ju Kopechne and Edward Kennedy. Photo illustration by Sean McCabe. Photographs from Archive Place. Koresh, from Zuma Press. Manson, both from Alamy, from Bettmann. Hickock, Smith by Curt Borgwardt. Sygma. Dahmer, Clarence Davis, New York Daily News Archive. Smalls, Ted Soqui, Sygma. Simpson, Craig Strong, AFP. Harding, all from Getty Images, from Archive. OGBB, Contrasto, Redux, Cunanan, from AP. Images, Rex, Shuttershock, Kennedy, Kopechne, by Steve Granitz. Wire image, Shakur, the fine art of murder has entered its gilded age. Such lavishment of resources. The true crime genre may no longer throw the long tombstone shadow it once did in non-fiction publishing, but print's loss has been pixel's gain. Film, television, and streaming networks are reopening famous cases, redrawing chalk outlines, and hanging the toe tags at peak production capacity, making it hard for even the most devoted forensics freak or legal beagle to keep up with this golden oldies medley of major homicides and courtroom theatrics. Round and round the corpses go as the carousel continues to spin. Oh. J. Simpson's murder trial, the miscarriage of justice that keeps on giving, was the subject of two-event miniseries in 2016. Real-life prosecutor Marcia Clark even scored her own show on A. And rub-outs of rap artists Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur formed the double-barreled focus of the 10-part Unsolved, The Murders of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. USA Network. David Fincher, whose Zodiac is one of the top 5 aesthetic wonders of the true crime genre, delved deeper into the devious maze of the serial killer psyche with Mindhunter. Netflix, based on John Douglas and Mark Olshaker's book Mindhunter, inside the FBI's elite serial crime unit. Netflix has a heap of other docs and docudramas sitting in its factory showroom, including The Keepers in Wild Wild Country, and a hangar packed with white-powdered, sweaty informant cartel sagas, Drugs Inc., Dope, Narcos, Cocaine, etc. The much-trod legend of all-around monster Jeffrey Dahmer was revived from a unique angle in My Friend Dahmer, based on the graphic novel by high school pal Durf Backdurf. The apocalyptic siege of the Branch Davidian compound presided over by messianic nutjob David Koresh was given the full Alamo treatment in the miniseries Waco, Paramount Network. Chapwick, the assassination of Johnny Versace, the looming tower, the casualties just keep on coming. On the 50th anniversary of the Charles Manson murders, August 9, 2019, to be gruesomely precise, we are due Quentin Tarantino's all-star Deathmobile, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a movie unlikely to err on the side of delicacy. Round and round the corpses go as the carousel continues to spin. Somebody mounting their moral high horse might cite this inundation as another sign of what sickies and sloths we are in the era of Netflix and chill, a nation of bloodshot eyeballs marinating in constant stimulation. Completely true, of course, no denying it, guilty as charged. And yet I would argue that we're no more slovenly or depraved than we ever were, despite the return of Roseanne. If anything, our appetite for mystery, sensation, and elusive closure has developed a more refined palate. Quantity usually drives down quality, but not here. The quality of this recent spate of true crimers is mostly unimpugnable. These movies and series aren't pack tales from the morgue, cynical, schlock rehashes that load on the ketchup. Technical proficiency and narrative sophistication have never been tonier in the entertainment matrix, everything beautifully machine-tooled down to the subtlest dramatic beat. The soundtracks often deploy an ominous ambient industrial hum that we associate with classier suspense thrillers, as if orchestrated by the ghost in the machine, or unroll a low cloud of gravitas that augurs something fateful waiting around the bend.
Chappaquiddick, measuredly directed by John Curran and solidified with a cast that never goes. Actor White told the Requiem bell over the watery death of Mary Jo Kopechne and restored the tragic aspect to a story that in 1969 evolved into a welter of howling headlines, a cause célèbre, another sign of the Kennedy curse, a source of sick humor, and, for decades after, a right-wing talking point. It was a trauma for those directly involved but not a national trauma, which requires a more complex array of cinematic resources or narrative blueprint. In the television era, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy was the coming-of-age moment for millions of baby boomers, and the day history went off the rails. Replaying the horror from a battery of different angles, eyewitness views, and trajectories, Oliver Stone's JFK, for all of its slanted conspiracy-mongering, deconstructed those 6 seconds in Dallas not simply as an unresolved case thronged with sketchy figures but as a fresh wound, a collective PTSD that infected the culture with a justifiable case of paranoia, of which Don DeLillo is our prose poet emeritus. National traumas are tricky to deal with dramatically because over the last 20 years or so Americans have been so grief-counseled into not dwelling on the past, to move on with our lives, that recreating the trauma in all its screams, chaos, and carnage can be viewed as triggering or, if the purpose of the project is to showcase heroism, trivializing. Sinking feeling. Jason Clarke and Kate Mara as Kennedy and Kopechne. The Al-Qaeda assault of 9/11 and the collapse of the Twin Towers, prophesied in the film Fight Club and the TV series The Lone Gunman, was a magnum blow delivered on live television against the delusional pride and security of the U.S. that furnished the casus belli for the war on terror, getting the new millennium off to a wretched start that even to sanity-prevailing terms of President Obama couldn't reverse. Contemplating Paul Greengrass's United 93, where passengers thwarted the flight's hijackers from presumably crashing the plane into the Capitol, and Oliver Stone's World Trade Center, a survival story about a pair of Port Authority police officers buried under rubble, Daniel Mendelsohn wrote in the New York Review of Books in 2006. However much they seek to illumine the events of September 11, the films of Greengrass and Stone are, in the end, more like curtains than windows. For the present, at least, we still can't bring ourselves to look. We still can't, or won't, not full on. As if conceding this to take a more incremental route, the Hulu miniseries The Looming Tower, based on Lawrence Wright's nonfiction Pulitzer Prize-winning bestseller, brocating the incidents, interrogations, unheeded warnings, and missed opportunities that led to 9/11, plays as a police procedural, an epic law. It's a skillful, well-produced, superbly cast retracement, an invaluable history lesson for a country that refuses to learn history, much less any of its lessons. Our leaders repeat the mistakes of the past with perfect virgin aplomb. The more flauntingly ambitious productions can stretch a pointillist canvas of period details so voluminously over 6 or 8 or 10 episodes that they lack the concentrated punch of a true crime classic such as Fatal Vision, 1984, the 2-part adaptation of Joe McInnes's account of the trial of Dr. Jeffrey MacDonald for the murder of his family, which MacDonald blamed on Manson gang-ish hippies. Possessing the production values of a Columbo outing, Fatal Vision nevertheless lodged itself in pop culture on the strength of Gary Cole's star-making performance as MacDonald, whose facade as the grieving father slips when he advises his attorney to have the character witnesses lay off all the talk about his dead daughter's Christmas pony. If they, the jury, hear about that pony one more time they're gonna puke. This more compact, emphatic approach can be truer to the original tabloid horror, but today's epic mode favors the long soak, an over-engineered saturation effect. The assassination of Johnny Versace, based on Vanity Fair contributor Maureen Orth's Vulgar Favors, is the most extravagant entry to date in FX's American crime story franchise, Fellini, American Style. The first installment opens with the shooting of the mercurial fashion designer, played by Edgar Ramirez, at the gates of his Miami Beach estate by Andrew Cunanan. Darren Criss, a heat-seeking, fame-craving psychopath, the camera propelled as if adopting the POV. In a first-person shooter video game. So stylized and iconized that it seems custom-made for replay on an endless art snuff loop. Versace's murder didn't carry the jolt of a life prematurely taken, it told the fulfillment of a reckoning preordained, the fatal final collision of a fashion emperor and an envious cast-off. Given the extravagance of Versace's kingly lifestyle, the miniseries couldn't be expected to practice tasteful frugality, but 9 episodes seems a lot of time, money, and scrutiny to expend on a punk whose sole claim to notoriety were the corpses he left behind, even if the series does posit him as the poster child for the dark side of the American dream. Heinous crimes have also received a fancy regurgitation, a kitschy satire staged like a commando raid. Tonya, starring Margot Robbie as skating badass Tonya Harding and Alamy Janney as her chain-smoking, abuse-barking momster, applied a cheesier, staccato, cartoonish mode of attack to rivet its message of lower-rung resentment and stymied upward mobility. Only director John Waters has managed to pull off camp comedy free of class condescension. What's striking about the true crime canon represented above is that it seems to belong exclusively to the previous century. That's where the lore is, the memes are. OJ's white Bronco chase, the severed heads in Jeffrey Dahmer's fridge, Nancy Kerrigan wailing, why? More contemporary crimes and mysteries are being spread out on the examination table of serial podcasts, an addictive medium, as the success of Dirty John and the Atlanta Monster demonstrate. But belonging to the oral realm, they can't hang the iconography that gets passed on from generation to generation. As in so much else, pop culture is raiding its capital reserves, just as network television is leaning hard on revivals and reboots, but this may be a temporary dry down until the next gushers. They're already here but have yet to play out to completion, to provide future storyboarders with the necessary third act for their treatments. I speak of these will furnish all the lore we need to forge on. Ryan Murphy, television's tireless multiple warhead writer, producer, showrunner, is already developing a picture the unsavory possibilities, Harvey Weinstein haunting hotel rooms in his bathrobe like a Dybbuk, or the roaming hands of Charlie Rose in pursuit of vulnerable flesh. The Trump administration could easily supply several seasons of American Crime Story, with plenty of leftovers for the DVD editions. The key will be content creators being shrewd enough to see that the forerunners for the Trump syndicate takedown aren't the Watergate conspirators, but the Gambino family. Don't think Richard Nixon, think John Gotti, and let the thuggery write itself. Get Vanity Fair's HWD newsletter, sign up for essential industry and award news from Hollywood. Full screen photos. Summer Reading, this season's ultimate fiction list. Be Lee Carpenter behind the summer why patriotism of its title lies a heady espionage novel. Author Lee Carpenter also co-wrote the screenplay for Mile 22, a film about the CIA's Special Activities Division directed by Peter Burge, out later this summer. Red, White, Blue, Knopf traces the lives of a CIA officer and a young woman confronting her late father's complicated past. For an author whose end-of-book note reads simply, "This is a work of fiction." No one I interviewed during the course of my research disclosed classified information. Carpenter provides highly realistic details about recruitment, the agency's relationship with the media, and life as a CIA officer. At any one time, you will have 5 to 10 different mobile phones. One of those phones is the one that may ring if there's a bomb threat.
one is the one that rings if an asset is in trouble, the protagonist says, adding, "A table full of phones is not a life." Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of Random House LLC, by Rachel Cusk. Award-winning novelist and memoirist Rachel Cusk closes out her auto-fictional trilogy. The first two installments, Outline and Transit, were published in 2014 and 2016, respectively, with Kudos, FSG, which finds its narrator on her way to Europe to speak at a literary festival. Characteristically, the novel is propelled by its narrator's ability to draw out stories from the strangers and acquaintances she runs into. A fellow passenger on the plane details the emotional distances in his family. An interviewer describes the demise of her close friend's marriage. There is commentary on art, the personal versus political, and the state of literature. A woman on the board of the literary festival muses that the unstoppable juggernaut of commercial literary success pressed on, though she had the sense that the marriage between the two principles, commerce and literature, was not in the best of health. Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of Farrar, Strauss and Giroux, by Evgenia Sitkowitz. In the wake of an immense personal tragedy that leaves their eldest child dead, the remaining members of a London family retreat within themselves as they attempt to process the loss. When an intriguing young woman turns up at the family's country house and strikes up the relationship with the family's matriarch, Catherine, a mystery is set in motion, lending the firmly contemporary The Shades, Norton, a quiet echo of such classic psychological thrillers as The Turn of the Screw and Rebecca. Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of W. Norton and Company, by Bill Clinton. A U.S. president is involved in a terrifying crisis and, you guessed it, goes missing. This novel will make you feel the impossible decisions, stress, and dangers out there in today's world, and the importance of the American presidency, said James Patterson in conversation with President Bill Clinton about the book. Clinton added, "Being president is a profound honor, but it can also be the most difficult job in the world because every day means something new, and it's not all good." Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of Hachette Book Group, by Helen DeWitt. Helen DeWitt, author of the instant classic debut The Last Samurai 2000, has produced a mind-bending collection of short stories that span such heady topics as statistical computing, religion, and the essence of capital A art. And, as in her beloved debut, which had readers feeling that they could read ancient Greek with ease, what DeWitt summits in substance she also mirrors in readability. To read DeWitt is to feel one is growing in intelligence, both intellectual and emotional. Who knew, for instance, that a story entrenched in coding and imaginary robots could feel so very human? Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of New Directions Publishing, by Joe Mungo. Red Called, Dazzling, by George Saunders and Unforgettable, by Mary Carr. Joe Mungo reads debut, We Begin Our Ascent, Simon Saul, whose role is to set up favorable racing conditions for the team's star within the peloton, the main group of riders, often V-shaped, that functions much like a flock of birds cutting through wind, becomes embroiled in a doping plot that draws in and affects not only his wife, a promising geneticist, but their infant son, as well. The novel employs humor and sadness, and is as meditative as it is thrilling. Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of Simon & Schuster, by Amitabh Kumar. Taking on dual narratives of love and the immigrant experience, Amitabh Kumar's Immigrant, Montana, Nof, drawn heavily from the author's personal life, explores the experience of a young Indian man, new to the United States, who is searching for romance while trying to bridge cultural divides. Through the eyes of a protagonist who takes his move in stride, hoping to fit in and thrive in his new environment at a New York university, Kumar, Lunch with a Bigot, describes the joys and disappointments of being an outsider in a new place, which range from the cultural to the corporeal. In America, land of the free and home of the brave, it was possible, figuratively speaking, to discuss genitalia in public. Amazon.com. Photo, courtesy of Nof.